Ladies and gents, let me tell you something. You know what really makes a person magnetic? Confidence. Now, I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm not talking about walking in the room like you own it when you can't even pay the rent. I'm talking about the kind of confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I'm not afraid to stand tall in it. That's the kind of energy that'll make somebody forget their train of thought when you walk by. See, attraction doesn't start with the body. It starts with the mind. When you carry yourself like you believe in yourself, everybody else gets the message too. Confidence is louder than words, stronger than perfume, and it will outshine the sharpest suit or the tightest dress. You can be the finest person in the room, but if you're standing in the corner looking like you're apologizing for existing, nobody's paying attention. But you walk in with your shoulders back, your smile easy, and your energy steady. Oh, head's gonna turn. And confidence ain't about perfection either. That's where people mess up. Too many folks are waiting until they lose the weight, get the promotion, or buy the car before they decide they're worth something. No. Confidence is about walking in with your flaws, with your scars, with your story, and saying, yep, this is me, take it or leave it. Because the truth is, when you accept yourself, you give other people permission to be drawn to you. Insecurity pushes people away, but confidence pulls them in like a magnet. Now, let me tell you something funny. People think confidence is about having the right words, like some smooth talker that always knows what to say. That's not true. You know what confidence really is? It's being comfortable enough to laugh at yourself when you mess up. It's cracking a smile when you stumble instead of acting like the world is ending. That right there is what makes people feel at ease around you. They think if they're that cool with themselves, maybe I can relax too. That's attraction. Another thing about confidence, it shows up in the little things. The way you shake a hand, the way you make eye contact, the way you sit at the table. Are you shrinking yourself or are you taking up space like you belong there? Because here's the truth. People treat you how you treat yourself. If you walk around like you're small, like you don't deserve attention, guess what? Nobody's going to give it to you. But you sit there like your presence matters. Watch how folks start leaning in. And let me drop this on you. Confidence is contagious. You ever seen someone who wasn't the best looking, wasn't the tallest, didn't have the fanciest stuff, but they walked in the room and somehow everybody wanted to know their name? That's because they believed they had something to offer, and belief is powerful. When you know your worth, you don't have to chase validation. People will sense it and want to be around it. So don't think attraction is about tricks or lines or even looks. Attraction is about energy. Confidence is that energy that says, I'm comfortable in my skin, I respect myself, and I bring value to the table. That's the kind of energy that makes someone lose control, that makes them lean forward, that makes them forget their phone and pay attention to you. Confidence doesn't mean being the loudest in the room. It just means you know you belong there. And when you carry that kind of certainty, you'll see it's not about chasing attention. It's about commanding it without even trying. Let me tell you something most people forget. Once they've been in a relationship for a while, playfulness is the secret sauce. Oh, at the beginning, everybody's playful. You're laughing at every joke. You're teasing each other over nothing. You're sending goofy texts at midnight. But somewhere down the line, people get serious. They start treating their relationship like it's a job. Schedules, routines, responsibilities, that becomes the focus. And while all that is important, you better believe this. If you let playfulness slip away, you start losing the spark that made you fall for each other in the first place. Playfulness is what keeps love fresh. It's not about acting childish. It's about keeping a sense of fun between the two of you. It's those little moments when you make faces at each other across the room, when you laugh until your stomach hurts, when you have inside jokes nobody else in the world would understand. That's the kind of energy that makes people feel like, yeah, we still got it. Because when you stop laughing together, you start drifting apart. Now, here's the funny part. People think passion only comes from grand gestures, a vacation to the islands, expensive gifts, fancy dinners. That's nice, But that's not where the fire really lives. The fire lives in those silly moments when you're dancing in the kitchen with no music. The fire lives when you're playfully arguing about who snores louder. The fire lives when you chase each other around the house like two kids who never grew up. That's the stuff that sticks. That's the glue. See, playfulness keeps you from taking each other too seriously because relationships can be heavy sometimes. Bills, kids, work stress. Life will hand you enough seriousness on its own. If you can't find the joy in the middle of it, you'll start drowning in the weight. Playfulness is like oxygen. It lets you breathe. It reminds you that before the responsibilities, before the struggles, there were just two people who liked being around each other. Here's another thing. Playfulness is attractive. When you can make someone laugh, when you can tease them just right, when you can bring out their silly side, you create a kind of intimacy that's hard to match. You're not just lovers, you're partners in fun. And when someone feels that joy with you, they don't want to let it go. It makes them forget their stress, forget the world, and just be present with you. That's what keeps the fire alive. But let's clear something up. Playfulness is not about making fun of each other in a mean way. No. That'll tear things down. Playfulness is about building up. It's about laughing together, not at each other. It's about keeping the energy light even when times get tough. Because laughter, real laughter, is healing. And don't underestimate the power of surprise. You want to keep that fire burning? Do something unexpected every now and then. Show up with a silly note, send a playful text, throw a spontaneous tickle fight. That little burst of fun says, I'm still paying attention to you and I still love making you smile. You keep doing that and you'll never have to worry about your fire going cold. At the end of the day, relationships aren't just about surviving together. They're about enjoying each other. Playfulness, make sure you don't forget that. It reminds you that no matter how old you get, no matter how long you've been together, there's always room for joy. And when joy is in the room, the fire is right there, burning bright. You ever notice how most people think leadership is all about doing the talking? Like the loudest voice in the room must be the one in charge. But real leadership, real influence, real connection, it starts with listening. Because here's the truth. You can't lead somebody if you don't even know where they are. You can't guide a person if you don't know what they need. Listening is how you find a map before you try to drive the car. Too many of us want to jump straight to solutions. Somebody starts talking and before they even finish their sentence, we're already interrupting with advice, with instructions, with what we think is right. That's not leading. That's bulldozing. And here's the kicker. When people feel unheard, they don't follow you. They resist you. But when they feel like you've truly heard them, when they feel like their voice matters, they'll trust you enough to let you take the wheel. Now, this ain't just about relationships. It's about life. Parents with kids, managers with employees, friends with friends. It works everywhere. But in love, this one is everything. See, most people don't really want a solution right away. They want understanding first. They want to know that you actually care about what they're saying. Listening before leading means slowing down enough to really catch the heart behind the words, not just the words themselves. And don't confuse listening with waiting for your turn to talk. That's what a lot of people do. They look like they're listening, but in their head, they're building their argument, planning their comeback, waiting to pounce. That ain't listening. That's rehearsal. Real listening is when you quiet your own agenda long enough to focus on what the other person is actually saying. You put yourself in their shoes. You lean in. You ask questions instead of jumping in with answers. That's when people feel safe. That's when walls come down. You know what listening really communicates? Respect. It says, you matter enough for me to give you my full attention. And let me tell you something. Respect builds trust faster than charm ever could. You can be smooth. You can be funny. You can even be successful. But if people don't feel respected, they won't stay with you for long. Listening is one of the clearest ways you show respect. And once you've listened, then and only then can you lead. Because now you're not guessing. You're not pushing your own agenda blindly. You're guiding with understanding. That's powerful. That's the kind of leadership that doesn't feel like control. It feels like care. And when people feel cared for, they'll follow you anywhere. Let me tell you something else. Listening makes you wiser. Every person you meet knows something you don't. Every story has a detail that could change the way you see the world. But if you're too busy talking, too busy proving yourself, you miss it. Listening is like mining for gold. You might have to be patient, but if you stick with it, you'll find treasure. Here's the irony. People who know how to listen often end up being the ones everybody listens to. Why? Because they're not just throwing out noise. They're responding with insight. They've earned the right to speak because they took the time to hear. That's the kind of presence that draws people in. So don't get it twisted. Leadership isn't about who talks the most. It's about who understands the best. And you can't understand without listening. You want stronger relationships? Listen first. You want more influence? Listen first. You want people to trust you enough to follow your lead? Listen first. Because at the end of the day, people don't follow the person who talks the loudest. They follow the one who makes them feel heard. Romance is the setup. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. See, a lot of people think romance is the big finale, the roses, the candles, the fancy dinner, the hotel suite. Nah, that's not it. Romance is the foundation. It's what sets the mood before the mood even gets here. It's the appetizer before the main course, the trailer before the movie. If you skip the setup, you're going to have a weak show. Too many people want intimacy without the effort. They want connection without investment. But romance, that's the investment that pays off in loyalty, in excitement, in chemistry. It's not just about flowers or gifts. It's about showing somebody, I see you, I appreciate you, I thought about you before I walked through this door. That's romance. It's not about how much you spend. It's about how much thought you put in. Here's what people forget. Romance doesn't always live in grand gestures. Romance lives in the details. It's the note you leave in their bag, the coffee you bring them in the morning, the text you send in the middle of the day just to say, I'm thinking about you. Those little things set the stage for bigger moments because by the time you bring out the roses and champagne, they already feel cherished. And when people feel cherished, they let their guard down. That's when love flows easier. Now let's be real. Romance takes effort. And some folks act like effort is a bad word. But here's the truth. Anything worth keeping requires attention. You can't just win somebody over once and think your job is done. That's like buying a car and never putting gas in it, never washing it, never servicing it, then wondering why it breaks down. Romance is maintenance. It's how you keep things running smooth. And let me put this out there. Romance is not one size fits all. What feels romantic to one person may not matter to another. That's why paying attention is key. Some people want words. Some people want quality time. Some people light up when you bring them little gifts. And some people just want you to take chores off their plate. The trick is to learn their language. Because when you romance somebody in the way they feel it, you don't just impress them, you move them. Romance also builds anticipation. Think about it when you plan something thoughtful, when you sprinkle in little surprises, when you keep that energy alive, it makes people look forward to being around you. They don't just show up out of routine. They show up with excitement. That's the power of the setup. You're creating a runway for takeoff. Here's the funny part. A lot of people only bring out romance when they're in trouble. They messed up. So now it's flowers, chocolate, dinner. And while that might patch things up for the moment, that's not sustainable. Real romance isn't an apology. It's a lifestyle. It's the everyday choice to make your person feel valued. You want to see your relationship transform? Stop waiting for Valentine's Day or anniversaries. Start weaving romance into regular Tuesdays. That's how you keep the fire lit. Let's not forget, romance benefits both sides. Because when you take time to set the stage, the atmosphere changes for you too. You feel more connected, more appreciated, more invested. Romance feeds the giver just as much as it feeds the receiver. So don't think of romance as optional or extra. It's the setup. It's the atmosphere. It's the prelude that makes everything else come alive. And when you master the setup, you don't have to force the connection. It flows naturally. Let me tell you something. Routine will kill excitement faster than anything else. Don't get me wrong. Routines have their place. You need stability. You need rhythm. You need a flow to make life work. But when it comes to keeping the spark alive, when it comes to attraction and connection, you've got to switch it up. Because doing the same thing the same way every single time, that'll make even the sweetest love taste bland. Think about it. If you eat your favorite meal every single day, eventually you stop craving it. Not because it stopped being good, but because you stop being surprised. Surprise is powerful. That little twist, that change of pace, that unexpected move, that's what wakes people up. It says, hey, I'm still paying attention. I still want to keep this exciting. Switching it up keeps people leaning forward instead of leaning back. Now, switching it up doesn't mean you've got to turn into somebody else. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars or reinvent your whole life. It's about variety in the small things. Maybe you take a different route home and stop for ice cream just because. Maybe instead of sitting on the couch scrolling on your phones, you go for a late night walk together. Maybe instead of dinner at the same old spot, you cook something wild neither of you has ever tried. It's the little changes that send the message, we're still an adventure. Here's the problem. Too many folks get comfortable, and comfort can be dangerous if you let it turn into complacency. Comfort says, they already love me, I don't have to try anymore. Complacency says, this is good enough, why bother? But love doesn't thrive in good enough. Love thrives in curiosity, in effort, in discovery. Switching it up means you never stop discovering each other, never stop finding new ways to connect. And let me tell you this, switching it up isn't just for the other person, it's for you too. When you change the rhythm, you wake yourself up. You stop sleepwalking through your own life. You remind yourself that love is alive, and alive things need movement. If you don't give it variety, it gets stale, and nobody wants stale love. Now, I'm not saying every day's got to be a circus. You don't need fireworks on a Tuesday night, but you do need unpredictability. That doesn't mean chaos. It means creativity. It means every now and then you do something they don't see coming, something that makes them laugh, something that makes them smile, something that makes them say, wow, I didn't expect that. That's how you keep the fire burning. And here's another benefit. When you switch it up, you give your relationship stories, memories, inside jokes. Those are the things you'll look back on one day and laugh about. Not the nights you watched the same show for the 100th time, but the night you got caught in the rain and decided to dance instead of run. Those moments only happen when you're willing to step out of autopilot. So don't be predictable all the time. Predictability is safe, but it's not sexy. Safe is good for paying bills, but if you want passion, if you want laughter, if you want that look in their eyes like they're falling for you all over again, you've got to switch it up. Because the truth is, people don't fall in love once and call it a day. They fall in love over and over again. Every time you give them a new reason, switching it up is how you keep giving those reasons. And if you can do that, trust me, you'll never have to worry about the spark burning out. Perfection. That's the trap a lot of people fall into. Everybody's chasing some perfect image, some flawless performance, some polished version of themselves they think will make people love them more. But let me break it down for you. Perfection doesn't connect. Connection does. And 9 times out of 10, trying to be perfect actually pushes people away, while being real brings them closer. See, perfection looks good from a distance, like a mannequin in a store window. Smooth, shiny, no wrinkles, no scars. But you get up close, you realize it's stiff, it's fake, it's not alive. Real human beings don't want to love a mannequin. They want to love somebody who breathes, somebody who makes mistakes, somebody who trips over their words, somebody who sometimes burns the toast but laughs about it. That's connection. That's where intimacy lives. Let me tell you something funny. People remember the imperfect moments more than the perfect ones. That vacation where everything went smooth, nice memory. But that road trip where you got lost, ended up in a little diner, laughed until your stomach hurt, that one sticks forever. Why? Because connection was built in the middle of the mess. Imperfection created a memory. Perfection can't do that. And here's the problem with chasing perfection. You'll never arrive. There will always be something not enough, not tall enough, not slim enough, not rich enough, not smart enough. Perfection is a finish line that keeps moving. You'll wear yourself out trying to reach it. But connection is available right now. All it takes is honesty, presence, and a willingness to show up as you are. That's enough. In fact, that's more than enough. It's irresistible. When you focus on connection over perfection, you create space for vulnerability. And vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage. It says, I trust you enough to show you my cracks, my flaws, my doubts. And guess what? When you do that, people feel safe showing you theirs too. That's how trust is built. That's how love deepens, not by hiding imperfections, but by sharing them. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve yourself. Growth is beautiful. Striving is good, but improvement should come from a place of self-love, not self-hate. When you're chasing perfection, you're saying, I'm not worthy until I fix this, this, and this. When you're focused on connection, you're saying, I'm worthy right now, even while I grow. That mindset shift changes everything. Let me make it practical. If you're worried about impressing someone, stop trying to look flawless and start trying to be present. Listen to them, laugh with them, share something true. Be goofy if that's who you are. Be thoughtful if that's who you are. Authenticity wins every single time because people aren't moved by how perfectly you present yourself. They're moved by how genuinely you make them feel. And here's the kicker. Connection lasts longer than perfection. Looks fade. Achievements get old. But the way you made someone feel, they'll remember that for a lifetime. Nobody says, I stayed with them because they never made a mistake. They say, I stayed with them because we had a bond, because they understood me, because they made me feel alive. That's connection. So stop chasing some flawless picture that doesn't even exist. Lean into your realness. Embrace your quirks, your laughter, you're clumsy, you're weird. That's where love is. That's where attraction lives. At the end of the day, it's not about perfection. It's about presence. Not about impressing. It's about connecting. And when you choose connection over perfection, you'll find something deeper, stronger, and far more beautiful than flawless could ever be.